June is upon us, and it's time to have some fun out in your yards. So what we're trying to do is get our plants a little more well established. We're trying to fertilize them and water them. And when I start looking at plants that we want to be more drought tolerant are going to be natives. If you didn't know, when you first plant a native isn't drought tolerant for probably the first year, maybe even 2 years. So it's up to you to make sure you're fertilizing and watering those natives. When I look at fertilizing natives, they don't like a really strong fertilizer for most of your natives, because we think out in the wild, they are getting mulching, they're getting leaf litter, all these different things. There's worms in that soil. It's a very neutral form of fertilizing for these plants. So as we look at fertilizing, I would look at using worm castings for all our natives. What's great about worm casting, it also has a lot of biology into it, a lot of healthy organisms into it. So if you ever buy a bag of worm castings and it's dry, you're missing a huge part of why we buy worm castings and use them in the garden. Established native still needs a little bit of kick here or there to keep them growing. And it's kind of a controversy. Sometimes people are like, don't fertilize natives. When I look at natives that are out in our canyon spaces or in our mountains, they're in areas that have been composting for many, many years. Even hundreds of years, that soil's been worked. And that doesn't really happen in our front yards or in our containers. So that's why it's pretty much necessary to feed these plants. So as we're using our worm castings, one thing that we always do with fertilizing is we water our plants, we mix in our fertilizer, and then we water again. This is the same with natives. For worm castings, I like to use it as 1 cup for every 2 square feet of soil space. So you're gonna water that area. You'll say, hey, a 2 by 2 area, I'm gonna use 1 cup. I'm gonna mix it in, I'm gonna water again. This is a great source of nutrients to keep your plants growing. That watering is gonna get nice and deep and get those roots nice and deep, because we're trying to grow on these plants, so by summertime, we have larger plants. They're gonna be a little bit more drought tolerant. Also in June, we're looking at some great seeds to plant. And it's warming up, and there's some seeds that really like the heat. One of which is called Zinger hibiscus. This is the seed that we use for Jamaica tea. It's a hibiscus plant in the hibiscus family. And when you plant these seeds, they do like a lot of heat. They want that temperature to be at 75, 80, 85 degrees. So a great late spring, summertime planting. And the fun part about this is when you plant those seeds and they start germinating, the plant is gonna be green. And it's gonna get about 1 foot tall, it's still gonna be green. That plant is gonna start turning dark red, almost like a purplish color to it. That is our typical plant that we think about Jamaica, is that color. So if you plant these seeds and it's coming out green, it's not just because you got the wrong seed, it's what that plant does. Also for this time of year, something that really likes the heat is borage. So borage is a great plant to plant. It has a lot of medicinal uses, but what's great about borage, it's a great pollinator. And we start looking at drier times of the year, and we start looking out in our canyon spaces and our neighbors' yards, and there's not a lot blooming because it's getting hot and dry. Borage is a great one to keep that blooming going throughout that hot, dry year. It needs a little bit of heat. You can grow borage in containers. And as your plants grow and get them established, during wintertime, these are gonna go dormant. But the following year, it's gonna come right back. So borage and Jamaica hibiscus seeds are a great seed to plant in June. Also coming up in June, we're gonna start seeing a lot of bugs, because bugs like a lot of heat. Warmer areas, a lot less airflow. We're gonna see a lot of bugs on our plants. We're gonna see aphids, we're gonna see thrips. We might see a lot more grubs in our soils. So as it is getting hotter in June, one thing we like to add is beneficial insects. And we do this a lot at the nursery here. We use it in our greenhouses. We use it out in the wild of the nursery. We use it in our soils. I actually use it in my house as well. Because what's great is we're using good bugs to fight bad bugs. And as I do tours here at the nursery with young kids, we always walk around and talk about good bugs and bad bugs. Everyone always says ladybugs, praying mantis. Those are great, but they're not super effective. They're a great thing to add into your ecosystem, but we don't rely on them to solve a problem. What we rely on beneficial insects is to help keep a problem at bay. A couple ones that I like to use here at the nursery are lacewings. And you actually see these flying in summertime at night. They're green, they're kind of like a lime green, and their wings are kind of looking like glass. And they're really clumsy at flying, which is great because that means they're gonna stay in your yard. So we use a lot of lacy wings here at the nursery. We put them in our greenhouses, and when you walk around the nursery, you might see these little tags that are black tags, and they have a lot of dots on them. Those are the lacy wing eggs. So that's what we're putting out here at the nursery. What we also put out are aphid predators. So these are predators that love to eat aphids. They come in a couple different stages. You sprinkle them around your garden. They actually will also lay their eggs in your soil. And as they hatch, they'll go up into your plants and eat aphids. And what's great, when you know these are working, you're gonna start seeing the skeleton of those aphids, because these bugs are sucking out all the juices of the aphids and leaving those skeletons. So that's how you know these are working. Other things that we use are beneficial bacteria to get rid of grubs. And once again, there's always some good ladybugs to let loose. We do have quite a few insects that we bring in to release here at the nursery. With these insects, you might not see them too often at your local nursery or hardware store because they're not really shelf stable. So that means they don't last a long time in the fridge. So what we like to do is if you're looking for insects and you have that certain type of bug and you're trying to figure out what insect to use, come inside the nursery. We have a great binder to go through. We'll talk to you about these things and we order them fresh. So as we bring them in, we'll order them, we keep them in the fridge, you pick them up the next day or two, and then you let them out in your yards and watch the bugs go to work. So for June, there's still a lot that we can go ahead and plant. If you're trying to figure out what to plant, don't worry. We do have a free planting guide you can go ahead and download, and that will give you some really good ideas for what to plant for June.